What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the number 2 live tuning. I mean, number 1, never number 2. Goat Rope Garage. MK, there are some relays out there that you can get that will trigger at 5 volts. You're telling me, DNZ. Of course, I took a nap today, so. What is going on? It has been quite the busy week. As you saw, I put a video out on doing the cam. I've got a video that was early access to members and patrons for the SD tuning. That will be going out to everybody probably tomorrow, and then we will do some more videos on SD tuning. I'm going to do an in-vehicle video on SD tuning, but I've got to replace the valve cover gaskets. The gaskets that I had in there was causing, actually the gaskets weren't causing leaking. The tall Mickey Thompson valve covers were hitting the firewall. So whoever cursed me by saying that, shame on you. I put some metal blocks on there and then I massaged the firewall a little bit, but that gasket's kind of crap. So I ended up getting some Fel Pro gaskets to go in there tomorrow so we can get back to tuning. Get back to getting the truck. We got her up to 9 psi so far. She's responding very well to speed density tuning. I don't know how well it's going to do on the mass airflow because the way the mass airflow is set up, we might have to relocate it. The plumbing's not the best, but it'll get us by because we've put so much money into this stinking ordeal to get it running again. We're just going to have to live with it. So, a lot of familiar faces. Hello, everybody. Welcome back on a Thursday. Brandon's got a question, probably for you guys. Do you all know if you put a shift kit in a 4L60E with a vet servo and leave these stock truck pressures, it shifts crazy hard? Oh, he is informing people that if you do this, it'll happen. So, see, we've got Andrew from Down Under. There's Ryan. Good to see you. Moto. Good to see you again. John. Vats Delete. Auto Answer Man. Mike. Atomic Punk as usual. DNZ and Hillary are always here. Glad to see their familiar faces. Oh man, somebody stole my bank card, so I had to cancel it temporarily. Oh yeah, no worries, John. No worries, man. Yep. Sorry to hear that. Been there, done that. Ugh. I actually had a guy steal my bank card number and bought a car, a new Chevy, from a dealership in Mexico City. Used it to do the down payment on there. So I called up my bank and I said, hey, this happened. And they said, well, have you been to Mexico City lately? And I'm like, come on, no, I've not been to Mexico City. Said, well, we'll work on getting you your money back. And I said, well, if you can't get my money back, at least get me my new car. I mean, is that too much to ask for? And for those who are wondering, we're drinking Single Cut Psychedelic Double Dry Hop IPA. It's pretty strong, 7.7%. It is a school night, so we're only having one. Yeah, exactly. Got one that your building's doing the same thing. Shipped hard, spins the tires in a second. Trying to think of anything else that's been going on. When would you use the MAF as in frequency unusable in idle? Well, Jacob, no, you can use it in idle. It becomes more unusable in idle. MAF is good for steady state airflow. Idle is fairly steady state unless you get an aggressive cam in there. Then it'll have a hard time metering. And then on top of it, if the MAF is in like a cold air intake tube that's sitting close to the throttle body, you have a tendency to get reversion in the intake tubing where the air is kind of moving back and forth because of the camshaft, and the MAF will not do it there. Doing a bullet. Silver bullet, I take it. Got the nitrous installed. MK. Nice. I've not done any nitrous pulls. I've not done any two-steps. I did find out that my Summit Racing line lock is already leaking, so I had to bypass it, and it is leaking out of the solenoid body. Literally blew a gasket out of the bottom. So I screwed up. Like everybody says, don't spend 50 bucks on the Summit Racing one. Just go ahead and get a Hurst. Went from 10 to 3 on the local street list yesterday. Number 2 was scared and wouldn't race. Congratulations, John. That's quite a jump, man. How many races did you have to do to get to 3rd? So what do I change in HP tuners to make the shift smoother? Every shift is fine except 4th to 5th. Penguin Tux, it's going to depend on which generation that you're on, but you can probably go into these shift pressures for 4th and 5th and lower those by about 10% and smooth it out a little bit. So how hard is idle going to be to tune cam? 238, 242 at 115 on a 6-liter. It shouldn't be too bad given that your specs, Catan, are not too further than mine, and I'm tuning a cam about that aggressive on a 5.3 with a supercharger. And the thing with the supercharger is you've got to get the tune dialed in, the idle dialed in, because if you have any idle fluctuation, it'll close your bypass valve and it'll surge air into your throttle body, which then just fights your adaptive tune or your adaptive idle. It's not too bad. Rick, the live feed is on. Which positive unit you go with, Brandon? Hey, if I'm running too cold of a spark plug, will it cause spark knock? Too cold of a plug should not cause spark knock. Too hot of a plug will, just because it's not dissipating enough heat into the water jacket to keep it from doing it. But honestly, plugs pretty low on the list of things that are going to cause knock, in my opinion. Yeah, there's a fine line, and I'll tell you the nice thing about it is this cam kind of sucks on the bottom end, but it has really woken up the Pro Charger, and I was getting into like 3 psi, and it felt like my P1SC1 at 10 psi. So I'm going to be surprised to see we were peaking out at 20 psi. I have a sneaking suspicion because we did do the cam, long tube headers, and lowered compression ratio. We're probably not going to see but maybe 16 psi of boost, but I have got a smaller pulley ready to go. I just have not gotten it out to wide open throttle. And the main reason is with my setup in the VE table that I crafted, as you see in that speed density, it is very rich up there, and because of the auxiliary and fueling and all that stuff, it's just getting to the point where it's too rich. So I've got to go through and start stepping all that fueling down because the auxiliary fueling, the methanol injection, all that stuff. But we're attacking it from the bottom end where we're going into rich. And as soon as we see that I'm getting like 15-20% rich, I'm stopping the log, going in and starting to subtract fueling out and subtracting out a little bit beyond that because it's going to just add more fuel as we go above that. But I did have to go into the auxiliary fueling system and bump up the injector rate. We went from the 42 pounders to the 80 pounders, but now we're running about 70% E85 in there. And because of that, we're hitting that 6 millisecond limit on the factory injectors, but we're still pretty rich also. So we'll pull fueling out of the factory injectors, lower that duty cycle, as it were, even though it's technically not a duty cycle, down, the pulse width down, and then just rely on the secondaries. And then I did go in and basically try to find anywhere that there might be fuel cut and do away with fuel cut, so it's never going to be cutting fuel. What should I play with to reduce D-cell pop? Do you have DFCO on still? Because if you got DFCO off, you're just flooding your exhaust with fuel. Do the zones table have much effect on Gen 3? Not that I know of, Mike. Honestly, I know that there is a zone option in there, but the way that the VE calculations work on the Gen 3s, I don't think that it's going to make a difference. I could be wrong on that. That's something I've never messed with, never seen a reason to mess with on Gen 3s because we're not necessarily calculating across zones. Hey, Brian. What's going on, brother? So, yeah, hoping to get a lot of tuning done this weekend. Hey, John. Get a lot of tuning done, get some videos out, get it really up into the top end. It's probably about time to do another oil change on it. I did the first one after idle. We've got probably 50 miles on it, so I want to go ahead and swap that oil out. We had a little bit of course, glitter coming out on the first oil change from breaking it in. So is 8 too hot of a plug on a 5.3? No, isn't 8 stock for a 5.3? Or 7? I can't remember. Well, this is also true. Depend on who's 8. Is 8 the hot side's numbers going down or numbers going up? Why can't we just agree on how to temp spark plugs and make everybody's lives easier? Oh, by the way, if you're working on a 5th gen Silverado Sierra, it is 1,000 times easier to get to the header bolts by pulling the fender well liners. Quick tip for you. Getting ready to do E85 swap this weekend. Injectors tune, sensor going in. Going to send you the last version of the tune. Get your thoughts. Think I have a good go for the ethanol. Yep, let me know, Brian. I'll double check it. Make sure everything's ready to go whenever you get your E85 sensor swapped in. Let me know if you have any issues getting it to read in. Don't think it will matter, but is it okay to run my oil I have in there now on new cam break-in? Have about 500. Yeah, I don't think there'd be any issues with that, Catan. Hey, Theo, good to see you. Five is stock NGK on a Gen 562, which is hot. Yeah. Oh, John, sorry to hear that. Could be worse. I was talking to my stepdad the other day. He has a bow tie block that he sent out for machining and put it together and then was having some issues with it, pulled the pistons out, and the skirts on the pistons were worn out, and then turned out that his machine shop overbored it and has, I don't think it's bored to the limit yet, but you guys know how expensive bow tie blocks are. Hey, John. You're almost as consistent as I am at this point in time. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do one more oil change running conventional here probably this weekend. Run it out for another 200 miles or so and do an X1 and just be overly cautious on this thing since it's my first rebuild. I do have one situation that is a little bit concerning. I've got one cylinder that's down a little bit on EGTs. I was very surprised to find out, lowering compression ratio actually raises EGTs, and beforehand at 11.5, these EGTs were about 800 to 850 at idle, and they're up to about 1,000 now with the 9.7 compression ratio. But number 5 is running about 100 degrees cooler than the rest. Now, granted, there's some differential across the whole thing, so I'm not too worried about 100. It seems to be making good power, but I'm not sure why number 5 is reading a little bit lower than the rest. Did say the farmers haven't backed up. Yes, their money is greener than mine. Danny, it is something to do with the way the mixture burns in a lower compression ratio as opposed to a higher compression ratio. So, Brandon, I've not done a compression test on it. Yeah, thank you, Ultimatum. You like my 442 shirt? Hey, Wallace. Yeah, as I said, I'm not 100% sure, but I did do the old YouTube search on there, and lower compression will actually make your EGTs higher. John says, no, you don't do a lot of trans stuff, but I'm going to be doing a 4L80 swap on my stroker build. Want to get the turbo set up. Sweet. Had the same issues with the number 5 temps when we crammed our 6.2 Camaro. That's cammed. Two-Face King. I'm really disappointed that I didn't have... oh, thanks, Hillary. I'm disappointed that I did not have the EGTs on all 8 cylinders beforehand because I would have liked to have seen the before and after. Everything technically would be considered kind of within reason. But it's just there's certain cylinders that run a little bit hotter, and number 5, it could be that number 5 has a little less compression. I may have gotten a little bit aggressive on the ring on that one. So all things are possible through boost, though. John, no, you should be able to do a segment swap for that ECU. Big Fish, I would do that, but it's just such a huge pain in the butt to swap injectors on this thing. Hey, Sam. Thanks again, Hillary. I appreciate it. Customer wants to install a used ECM for him. What's my best option? TDS is the only one. HP tuners won't do it, Gary Dean. And then on TDS, you only have to license the VIN for the vehicle that you're putting the ECM into. Gravel Drive, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you watching and being a subscriber. So, I love doing it. I mean, we've been doing this for 1.5 years now, and this has just been great. I've got so many new friends out here, and I've learned, as I said, more from you guys than I've learned. Getting ready to put a sending unit on 06 GMC Yukon Denali, all ready to put 340 in. I put my 525 in, by the way. Eh. 06, no return line, should have a fuel pressure control module in there, lowering your pressures down. Though I have popped a line whenever I was running my 340, I popped a line on mine also, so even with, you know, it's trying to keep pressures down. All the cylinders must be on different, because my knock sensor info was different on all cylinders. There's 2 knock sensors, and then the knock is calculated based off of your crank position to determine which cylinder is knocking. Contain, you could go down and get some weld steel from Home Depot and cut it down and use it as a pin. If it spins the crank, don't blame me, but it'd probably be fine. Appreciate it, Brian. HP tuners will not reprogram a VIN number for an ECU. John, we're going to do something like that here soon. I got a 525. We'll see what it'll do. If I have to go bigger than the 525, which there's a good chance that I'm going to have to go in and just redo the whole fuel system. There you go. NK Motorsports says he used a drill bit. Yeah, tooling steel would be plenty fine. You got to realize that the pin, it is there to keep the crank from rotating, but the actual force that's trying to keep your crank pulley from rotating is the clamping force of it being clamped onto your crank. So the pin shouldn't have a ton of load on it, even with the supercharged setup. Chris, doing a 150 shot on my Chevy 5.3. How should I start with the tuning process? Are you doing a wet shot? Ever scaled a Gen 4 card math on a Gen 3? Sure I have, Daily, because it's all in frequency. Oh, it does on Gen 3? That's good to know, Vats Delete. Chris, I mean, if the wet shot is in there, theoretically you don't really have much tuning to do other than pulling a little timing. So pull 2 degrees for every 50. You know, basically in the range where you're going to be spraying. So if you're doing a wide open spray, I would go out and do a log without spraying and just capture that data where you're wide open throttle and see where you need to pull your timing. There's other ways of going in there and faulting out your intake air temperature sensor to go into a specific row of your timing table, and then you can just make your adjustments to that row. There's information out there specifically for doing it that way. And Socrates guys used to do the dry shot through the mass airflow sensor, and it will do some fueling adjustments, but it's still not ideal. Really shouldn't do a dry shot with stock ECU, especially since they've got the wet shot science down pretty good. I don't know, Catan. Somebody might be able to tell you what the difference from the LS2 one. Thank you, Daily Builds. I appreciate it, brother. Have a nitrous purge. I don't even think that you have to set up a resistor gravel drive. I think you can just put a relay on your signal wire, can't you? And just cut that signal wire, and it'll default down to a negative setting or something. You're going to need a relay regardless, though, right? Relay, one passes through, and then another one, it runs it through a resistor. Wideband is on serial, Chris. I figured something out the other day, and other people have probably figured this out before in the past. If you're using a serial connection for your wideband, focus on me. And the thing keeps on disappearing from your scanner whenever it's serial, go into your device manager and remove all your other serial ports that are in there. I've got Bluetooth ports that keep on popping up for the micro squirt, and they repopulate automatically because I've got that added as a device, so whenever I turn the truck on, it sees them. But as soon as I take those out, my serial starts reading in. That's a lot of work, DNZ. Got a lot of work going on. Okay. There you go. Look it up. There's information out there on there. I know, I've seen it. There's people that make harnesses that you can basically plug in. They probably want $100 for something that's not worth $100. Oh, by the way, let me go ahead and say we've got classes up for next month. If anybody's interested in the tuning classes, they're broken out this next time into 3rd, 4th, and 5th gen. They're going to be on a Sunday, 2-hour class. Generation specific. Go check out the website, goatropegarage.com. What's your thoughts on the Terminator X Max for the Gen 5 stuff? Very expensive. Very expensive. I think it's... For one, I think Gen 5 motors are probably still a little bit too pricey whenever you can get a Gen 4 motor for cheaper, and then get the Terminator X for cheaper on it. And I don't necessarily know if you're going that route why you would want to stick solely with direct injection on that stuff. Mr. Schmidhead, no. The NGK AFRM is not a bad wideband. Oh, that's not serial then, Chris. That's analog. It should not be disappearing whenever you're using analog. Serial uses the serial to USB adapter that you plug directly into your laptop. When is the Super Auto going to the strip? Spoilers, Gravel Drive. There's a test and tune next Friday. We'll see. We'll see. See what we get done. So, might be next Friday. Can you go into more detail as why your math graph is smooth and mine flatlines? That's just the limit of the math, Michael. So, as your math curve comes up, and then wherever it flatlines right here, that you have hit the maximum airflow for your math. And so it's saying at this hertz rate on your mass airflow, it is now exceeding the amount of air that it can calculate. Excuse me, this beer makes me a little belchy. Any advice on how to properly scale injectors for an E40 and a GTO? E40, I mean, the double stoich method's the best way to go. I don't think the E40 supports the voltage scale. Just be aware that whenever you scale injectors using the double stoich method, it adjusts your cylinder air mass, and so you need to be aware of that. The Cadillac is in my driveway. So, we've not done anything on the Cadillac other than I ordered a replacement BCM for it because I had a water leak where I was passing through the firewall that was dripping on the BCM. I think I got the factory one dried out, but it was causing all kinds of electrical gremlins to the point where the car would just kill the battery. But The Cadillac is not going anywhere, but we're not really going to be doing anything for it right now. There's a good chance that we might start an engine build for it over the winter, though. So, Colorado's a little bit far away from me right now. Oh, interesting. Did not know that, TBJ. I will have to look into that. If we need to shut down the Patreon, we can probably figure something out between the website and PayPal. But I will look into that. Thank you for the heads up on that, brother. Still happy with the nitrous? Oh yeah, love the nitrous. In fact, I put nitrous on the Super Auto because I like it so much. We're only going to be doing like a 50 shot for now. Yeah, Dan, he said he was using the Pro on the side, not the OBD2 or the Serial. Oklahoma, then. Tulsa, maybe. I've raced so many times at Noble. I just hate racing into the sun. Well, Schmidthead, I still have a XLR-V supercharger to put on there. So, we'll see. But, I mean, it's the North Star's got to go. And we've already got Terminator X in there, so swapping it out will be so easy. Oh, you're starting at 100 plus boost. Aren't you special? I got built by, man. Maybe I'll start at a 200 shot plus boost. I got the Jets for 300. Maybe I'll do a 300 plus boost. Keep me posted, Brian. I love working with the guys down at Nitrous Express. Yeah, of course, Jonathan. Tulsa's nice. I don't know. Is Arc City still open? Arc City's where I used to go race all the time. I'm pretty sure we should, if we hit a 300 shot off the line in the truck, that we would find out the weakest link real quick. Oh, it's completely revamped. So they fixed the end ramp. Oh, that's awesome to hear, man. Yeah, dude. I mean, that thing looked like it had been through the Battle of the Bulge as soon as you got past the quarter-mile mark. It was sketchy. Doing a swap in a Toyota truck. You swapping an LS in it? Biggest shot with a stock plenum? John, I don't know. Shouldn't you? Stock plenum, you should be able to go as high as you want to go as long as you don't leave nitrous in the plenum whenever you're not wide open throttle. We're not going to do LS Fest this year because of all the sketchy stuff going on. We will be there, though. So, rest assured. Yeah, as I was saying, John, you should be fine as long as you're not pulling nitrous up in the plenum. Ooh, the Hinton Street races this weekend. You going to go down? Exactly, you'll blow the welds on your intake. Danger to intake manifold. We'll see, Vatstali. As I said, it's all depending on what's going on. So, probably not in the cards because it is August already. Unfortunately. But we can shoot for something in the spring. As things calm down. We get back to normal life, maybe. I'm just hoping that it doesn't go completely upside down before I get back out to the track. Because it was hard enough getting on the track back in, June. Don't be scared, go unlimited. Yeah, that's why I'm leaving off the nitrous. And as soon as I leave, then the nitrous comes on. You want to give those new triple nickel R's out, Catan? You can send them to me if you don't want them. Have I seen the cars? You mean the pro mods in Oklahoma? Ugh, cars. It's hard calling those things cars, man. Yeah, that's what I thought. Guys, a Gen 3 and 4, which tuning class would be more beneficial? 4. 4 is a little bit more complicated than 3. 3 is super easy, but a lot of the stuff that you would learn in a Gen 4 will carry over to 3. You're just not dealing with virtual volumetric efficiency. Yeah, there's a few that are still cars. In the small tire class, big tires, they're just all pro mods now. I swear. It's gotten a little bit ridiculous. Yes, it is an old 442 shirt. I'm a pretty big fan of the Rocket 455 personally. As long as it has a tailgate. That's interesting. That's the way it should be on a truck class though. Run what you brung. As long as it has a tailgate. How's an El Camino work on that though? Can that run in the truck class? Yeah, I'd like to have a 7442 myself. Michael, yes, we most likely will get kicked off the track. So there's supposedly there's not been any of the 5th gen trucks in the 9s in the US yet. They've done it over in the Middle East. So we'll see. Yeah, speaking of VVE, have you got any tips on adjusting zone boundaries to get the zone transitions line up? Line them up on your VVE graph. So if your RPM is at 1500, shift it to 14 or 1600. Same ordeal with map or pressure ratio. Don't have a zone boundary land on a row you can't see. That's kind of the big one. Cage is a winter project. Catan. Yeah, we've already talked about it. I'm going to make Justin weld my cage up. I'm surprised he's not in here. I've got a 4-link on there, gravel drive. I'm already running a wider tire than most trucks can run on there, and I can mini tub it pretty easily, so I think driveline issues are going to be the issue. I don't necessarily know that axles. I wouldn't be surprised if we broke a drive shaft, though. Well, you know, if you get an SN95, you can just go away. Ah, there's Justin. Yes, I volunteer you to weld my cage. Doesn't help that, or doesn't hurt that Justin has a bender and all the fun stuff to do it. Have you ever used Blue Cat's Trans Tool? I have, but it's been a long time ago. But there's plenty of people in here that have used it recently. It'll be interesting to see what we can get it to do without completely making the interior race interior, because I like the fact that it's still a street truck. But I do want to get one in so I can jerk the driver's seat out and then put 2 Kirkies in and have 2 seats in it again, because I'm trying to keep as much of the interior on this truck as possible. Oh, congratulations, Lathan. Everybody, Lathan had his first baby last night. Thank you for tuning in for the hospital. The best to you and your family. Congratulations. Justin, you racing this weekend? Lots of congratulations going out. Now that's family. Lathan brought us in the day after he had his baby on the live stream. Seems like right after I had my first, I had 3 more running around. Pulled the back seat out, put a piece of indoor-outdoor carpet down because anyone over 5-year-old can get in back there anyways, right? Points day at Keystone, Friday and Saturday. Keep me posted. I might get bored and swing out there just to get some data log time. So, might be good to get a nice long drive on if I can get my oil leak fixed tomorrow. What time is the race Friday? I mean, I won't be coming tomorrow, but I'll be interested. Michael, we will do that here soon. We're going to get Morgan in there too. Ah, gotcha. Friday at 6:30, Saturday at 1. Yeah, keep me posted. Ah! Brand new bouncing baby shop. Keeping them super busy. Ah, Brandon, welcome. Phil, it was not necessarily idle tuning so much as it was getting it running tuning to do speed density tuning. And then in theory, I've had to go back and actually make a couple of adjustments to the cranking volumetric efficiency since I've gotten my VE table sorted out. And so I had to go back in and lower it back down. So you got to feel it out when you're going to have to bounce back and forth between idle and, you know, things like that, because one feeds into the others. Tuning your speed density and your MAF is going to affect the way that your idle responds. Brian, you'd be surprised. There you go. Catan nailed it. It's a balancing act. Especially the more aggressive that you get on things like cams, as you know, things that are directly going to muck up your idle, as it were. Muck with an M. Muck up. What is an acceptable idle for a high lift cam? Wherever it likes to be at. 800. 1,000. Don't go over 1,000 though. 800. If you get a very high lift cam, now if you want low, drop it lower. You'll probably still get some decent shake out of an 800 RPM, but you can get it to idle decently at 700. Yeah, overlap is what's going to be what kills you. But if you've got a high lift, high duration cam, it probably is going to have a decent amount of overlap. Get an eBay 102, pull my stock intake internals and slap them in the 102. Think it'll work. There's one way to find out. Never hurts to try. Yeah, exactly. As low as you can get it without stalling. Yeah, I think I've got mine set to 1,000 right now. And that's just to try and keep the bypass valve open. But I'm still not done tuning that section of it. If I could get it down to 850, I'd be happy. But I have a sneaking suspicion at 850, I'll be having a hard time keeping the bypass valve open, and it's going to start surging. Depends, gravel drive. You're always going to have better luck tuning the MAF. It's just easier. As long as your VE table is not super far off, go in and fatten it up if you need to, so it's not going to take over your MAF. It doesn't really matter. I like to do the MAF first usually because it is easier, get you on the road a little bit quicker. Yeah, the Nick Williams 102 is just expensive. Showing 850 on your HP tuners, but showing higher on your tech. I'd probably trust HP tuners. I can only imagine. 750 to 800 with a stage 4. I got to get another one just because I have all the tools to build one now. NA and turbo, it's not a big ordeal. It's whenever you get into superchargers because they're positive displacement that has an issue. Even a pro charger, it's technically making boosted idle, even though it's not. But it is skewing your airflow so much that if that valve is cycling, it's just a pain. Brutal Soldier. Yeah, I touched on some of that platform a little bit. Don't get caught up on all the options. There's a lot of options that make your head hurt. You only need about 5% of all of those settings. Some of those settings, even on the most wild modified vehicles on the face of the planet, you never need to touch them. What happens is they're going through these things and discovering where these things are at in the bin file, the file itself. Whenever they find out what it is and figure out what it is, then they just throw it on there because they know what it is now. Doesn't mean we need to mess with it. Yeah, gravel drive, as I said, mine TCI has not showed up yet, and my truck pushes through the stall like nobody's business. There's no raffle tonight, Montana. Nice try, though. John, just drive down the street, find the first thing that looks cool that's somebody's selling in their yard for $300. That's the beauty of having these LS-based platform motors. They'll fit in everything. G-bodies are getting expensive. Chevy Love, now you're talking. Brandon Crocker brings up the Chevy Love. I'm going for a 442 shirt. Ugh. Anything but an SN95. Oh, gross. No raffle tonight. Come back next weekend if you want, or next Thursday if you want a raffle. You guys saw my American Express bill, you'd freak out. I got to pay bills before I do raffles. Ever since upgrading my cam, it feels sluggish on the low end but wants to break loose on the high end. Is this normal? Depending on how aggressive the cam is, yeah. Look at your cam card. See where the power range is. My cam feels like a dog on the bottom end. But once it wakes up, hold on. I have a very bad issue, and also part of this is because of the stall still being the stock one, is I can't leave from a stop sign without blowing the tires off right now. I'm currently tuning my TA for SD. Do I need to enable the SDOS patch? I don't think you need to on a single bar if you're not going turbo. Help me out, guys. Is there any reason to put the SD patch in for a 3rd gen if you're not going into boost? Okay, Moto Brewmaster. Maybe next Thursday I'll raffle off a couple broken pistons. What do you think about running the Holly Dominator as a piggyback ECU with the Gen 5 engines? Donaldson, are you going to be switching over to port injection? Yeah, I guess that if it's the RTT OS, you can use the real-time tuning options. I think they have to put that warning on all Gen 3s because the way the bootloader's set up on those that they can't recover from a mispatch. Unlike Gen 4s and Gen 5s, they're pretty hard to brick those. You got enough to build me a monster? I think a lot of the Gen 3s are prone to bricking if you have issues during the ride. ECM swap. My service numbers and OS numbers match. They would it not work? No. Depends on the ECM, Gary. To be honest, which generation are you doing? Longest 5 minutes of a tune. Sweating. Yeah, I mean, if you're going over to port injection, Dominator would be fine. As I said earlier, Donaldson, I don't think you were in here. If you were going to try and stick with DI, I would just do away with... I wouldn't even build on that platform. Nice. I've always liked the monsters. I had a Triumph Street Triple for a while. Yeah, Timothy, I mean, if you're tuning it fine without the patch, why flirt with disaster? The tuning process works based off of just like how it is set up. So E38, no, it shouldn't matter on the E38 if I'm not mistaken, Gary. I don't, because the OS interchangeability on those should be pretty universal. Have a good one, Ryan. In Catan, yes. I'm using a external map on the Cadillac with the Terminator X. They have an input that you can literally. They have a input. If you buy one of the pre-terminated harnesses, like I did, it'll plug right into an existing map sensor. And then you can choose the 2-bar or 3-bar from the drop down. Yeah, sure, Gary. Yeah, it's nice getting the Terminated kit. Because I did the Terminated kit, and even though I had to change over the injector connectors, I left the injector connectors on the Terminator and then built adapter harnesses to go from the... I think I had an LS1 kit, and going over to the, or it's actually an LS, what was the 4th gen C7, or Z06, 4th gen Z06, went from one of those and built an adapter harness to go over to the North Star coils. John, you know, we've been talking a lot about torque storms lately. And I don't have anything negative to say about them. I think the prices are great. They're bare bones. They're for the DIYer out there, but for the money, you know, it's hard to beat the price for the bracket and the blower. Yeah, check the injector connectors, because that's the big thing, is the injector and coil connectors on them. About the rest of it's pretty much the same. I do myself wrong by installing a high lift cam. Not if you want to make power up top. Mr. Schmidhead, there's already C8 tuning options through HP Tuners, but it's going to cost you between $20,000 and $25,000 to tune one. The ECU lock, I don't know if the ECU has been unlocked by HP Tuners yet to the public. They will have to do an ECU unlock like they have done on the 2019s and 2020s. You laugh. You think I'm kidding. I'm being 100% serious here. The ECU will have to be sent in and be unlocked by HP Tuners, just like the 2019 Silverados and stuff. So you're going to spend $1,000 or so for that. Then it's going to cost you probably at least 10 credits. At least 10 credits to write to the ECU. So there's another $500 some there. And then if you want to use the neural networking stuff that they just rolled out, that is $1,250 a month. $1,250 a month for that service, which is stupid. So as long as HP Tuners has the corner on the market, it is going to be very expensive to tune C8s. And there's only going to be a few shops that are doing it, but you're going to be looking at Lamborghini prices for tuning C8s for a while. So, doing it yourself, you're probably still going to be in it for at least $5,000 DIY. If you have a tuner do it, though, as I said, it's going to cost you well into the tens or 20,000s. John, report back if you get them. Gravel drive, yep, still run the stock transcooler on the Silverado, but I have the upgraded transcooler for the towing package, so it's the dual core transcooler. Should be more than sufficient for what we're doing with it, because it is designed, it is the same one that you would be running in a crew cab towing a trailer. Price for the car itself may not be that high, but price for tuning until somebody else comes out with a solution to tune them is going to be stupid. The fact that they're asking 10, 15, 20 credits, like $2,000 to unlock the ECU is just stupid. What can I do to increase low end power then? Turbo? Not a turbo. You want to get a twin screw blower. Root style, twin screw. True, but the barrier to entry has been stepped up compared to even what you could do on the C7s. Hi, Hillary. Rear gears on the truck? On my truck? You asking me? 342s? Oh, you're telling Phil. Yeah, you could put rear gears in. I don't think they care, Socrates. I don't think that they care. The kid's got to her phone. Hell, I can't remember, Moto. I'd have to look. 29s. They're 29s or so. Yeah, put a blower on, Phil. Be done with it. You're beating around the bush. Just do it. Quit being scared. I'm about to say, if a heel coil is installed correctly, it's going to be as better as, if not better than the original threads that were in there. Because the design of it, the way that it locks in is, you know, you're going to be tearing stuff up to get that thing to break loose as opposed to the thread, especially when you're talking about aluminum, threading into aluminum. Well, Fast Daddy already said that. Yep, twice as strong than aluminum. Aluminum's just the worst thing to run bolts into. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know the time. It is time to wrap up for the night. It's been a good chat. A lot of good questions, a lot of good information. I appreciate everybody swinging by, joining our chat as usual, spending the time. Thursday night, I've got a lot of tuning to do. I'll get some videos out this weekend. Trust me, we're going to get this thing running, get into the boost. Oh, really? Amelia Hartford blew up her C8. Surprise, surprise. Sorry, I got distracted by Mr. Schmidhead saying Amelia blew up her twin-turbo C8. My eyes cannot roll high enough into my head. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Oh, wait a second. Before you guys jump off here real quick, want to announce a new sponsor. We've got Bench Force as a new sponsor. Not going to apply to most of you guys, but I love these products. Really big fan. I've got their harnesses floating around here for multiple generations. I've got my 3rd gen harness for doing bench tuning, stuff like that. Here's what the harness looks like. This plugs into the Bench Force. And then your different harnesses swap out here. So this is an E99 harness, which is, you know, the 5.5 gen. But then it's got a OBD2 port on it. So for doing what you're wanting to do here on the desk like this, they're really awesome. So make sure and check them out. I'll be putting some videos out on some of their stuff here in the future. But big shout out to Bench Force for supporting the garage and what we do over here. You guys know the deal. Thanks for stopping by the garage. ABT, always be tuning. Have a great weekend, everybody.